we go. All right, welcome to Facebook Live. This is In the Blue with Cory Frogley, and I am really excited today because I've got a guest that is presenting a topic that goes right along with what Blue IQ is all about. As you know, Blue IQ is about bringing you tools to scale your practice. So if you're tuning in and you're happy and content with a small practice and the way it's going, I warn you, log off now because this episode is going to kick you in the pants and motivate you to get off the couch and grow your practice, not only a single location, but into multiple locations and even more. So as you know, I've got my guest with me today. His name is Kevin Cumbus. We've been friends for a couple years now, and he's actually been a great inspiration, contributor to help us in the design and building of Blue IQ. And I've watched him go from working in the financial industry and then bringing those expertise into the dental industry with owning his own practices and scaling his own DSO, and now finally being able to go into the opportunity to be a part of a brokerage where they've consolidated everything that they've learned with his partners and are now bringing that to the market to help those of you who are just on the fence. Are you considering jumping on this consolidation bandwagon that's happening in the industry? And with that knowledge he's co-founded a brokerage that's called Tusk. And it's got a killer logo. It's almost as cool as the octopus. So Kevin, nice job on that. So Kevin, thanks for being with us today. And we're going to get rolling into your presentation, but thanks for being here with us.
Oh, Cory, it's great to be here. And congratulations on this event. It's so fun to watch you bring in these industry experts and have them share with your community their experience and knowledge in this platform. So we are very excited to be a part of this and look forward to kicking this off with you today.
Cool. Kevin's on a whirlwind tour of the West Coast. I'm glad you're not down by the fires. He's up in San Francisco, so I'm glad you're safe, man. But to our viewers down in the south of California, man, our hearts are going out to you. All right, so as you know, as we bring this up with these trends in the dental industry, but this is happening, this has happened in the medical industry. This is happening heavily in the dental industry and the integrated universe that I spend a lot of time in with consolidation of medical, chiropractic, physical therapy. It's happening. This is a trend that's a hot topic. And so, again, this is why we have an expert with Kevin with Tusk. There's his cool logo that they've designed. And so let's jump into this, Kevin. Share with us what you've learned and what our users can take to heart and really begin to apply as they're trying to scale their practices.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's good for all of us to kind of look back at the industry historically and understand some of the drivers of the consolidation in the market. We've seen dentistry be practically recession-proof. So the industry has grown with relatively stable growth. And then we saw in 2008 when the market corrected, in 2011 when the market took another tumble, the U.S. economy really took a hit. But dentistry, on the other hand, was just flat. And everyone really, and you think about the finance, the private equity guys took notice of that. And they said, wait a minute, how is it possible that when the U.S. economy takes such a major dip that the dental economy is only flat? And that sent up flares. And people got really excited about this industry. And they looked into it and said, wait, it's at that point maybe 90% unconsolidated. We had some of the larger enterprise level DSOs like Heartland and Aspen who were really making the initial waves in the industry at that point. But you see they said, wait a minute, there's another opportunity here. There's more room for consolidation and aggregation in the market. So the experts today say that the dental industry as a whole is likely to grow at 6%. So that's an important number to keep in mind as we look at the next slide, because we're going to look at where that growth is coming from next.
Perfect.
So this is a really telling slide about the three big buckets in the market. So we'll start with the left and move our way to the right. Private practice, this is where my father's practice lived, right? When he started his practice back in 1976, he didn't advertise. He was back in an office park. He relied on word of mouth referrals from people at church or people in the Kiwanis Club to really send him the referrals. He did not have any advertising. He had one line in the Yellow Pages, and that was it. So that's really where my father lives, in that private practice world.
Yeah.
We believe that's somewhere around 75% of the market today. Secondly, we have the middle market. You can think about these as primarily doctor-founded emerging market DSOs, so between 2 to 25 locations. Today, we think that represents about 13% of the market, give or take a couple percentage points.
Sure.
Then we have the elite groups. These are the 25 plus locations. These are large enterprise scalable businesses, true platform businesses that have that scale and in many cases have gone through some type of liquidity event, brought in a private equity partner or family fund partner, but have additional capital to grow. And they represent about 12% of the market today.
Nice. Yeah, it's been fun watching this emergence because, again, as we stepped our foot into this space, again, similar to yourself, had an uncle that was a dentist, and meeting Linda Miles and just her expertise in this industry and seeing the trend and where it was going, it's been fascinating as we've had that communication with these doctors where as you start scaling those locations, for those who are unfamiliar with a DSO, a dental service organization, they're consolidating their admin services. So they're centralizing their billing, they're centralizing their marketing, they're centralizing their training. So if you go into one location, the front desk is going to greet you. The front office is trained the same as the next location, the next location. I mean, no difference than a fast food franchise concept.
Right.
Maybe we shouldn't use fast food franchise, but a higher end franchise. But they're able to consolidate their services, which lowers their costs. And I know you're going to go into some of that today. It's tough to go from that initial step from private practice to this mid-market, and there's some amazing entrepreneurs out there doing that. And then that elite group, man, they dialed it in, and as you explain how they've made these leaps and bounds, that's what I want our audience to understand today is what it takes. It takes blood, sweat, and tears, but it also takes fuel and it takes connections. And
Yeah. But Cory, I'll tell you, we have a lot of founder owners come to our office. We teach a full day deep dive on the dental economy and share with them 120 pages of content about where this industry is going, the value drivers inside of it. How do you build scalability into your business, and how do you centralize some of those services, like you mentioned, the AR, the AP, a call center, and how do you go from 1 to 2 and 2 to 10 and 10 to 20? I will tell you this, this type of work is not for the faint at heart.
No.
Anyone who thinks they're going to make more money by scaling a business we think is missing the boat a little bit, because as you grow, you have to continually reinvest more cash into your team, into your infrastructure, and you're adding more cost at the DSO level in order to reach that critical point where you can scale more affordably.
Yeah.
But you're right. You think about two locations, both have an insurance team member that's working on eligibility, filing claims, but they're not 100% utilized. Whereas if you have two locations, and then from that two locations, maybe you only need one insurance provider. So there really are pickups in the overhead rate as you grow.
So, which brings us to your next slide, because I think this is a great point in helping people understand how do you get the coffers in the bank or the rocket fuel to do some of that?
Sure. Hey, if we could just skip back one point, I want to make one more point on the previous slide. We talked about the 6% growth rate of the overall market.
Mm-hmm.
Over the next 5 years, the solo practice market is going to grow at 1% compounded annually over the next 5 years. So the question becomes, where's the rest of that growth coming from?
Right.
Well, it's coming from the other two buckets and primarily that middle market space. I'm really pretty sick and tired of hearing the word corporate dentistry,
Yeah.
especially today in the world where we live with these middle market doctor-founded businesses. The
Hmm.
entrepreneurial dentist, this is where the biggest growth is, and this is where we actually love to work. This is expected to become 25% of the market with 12 to 15% compounded annually. If you could tell me a stock that I could buy that would grow at 12 to 15% annually, I would probably get a
Bitcoin.
second mortgage on the house and invest.
And go after it.
And,
Yeah.
and that's really, you look at these trends, and that's why I think you're in this industry, and why we are solely dedicated to the growth and creating shareholder value in this space.
Yeah. Yeah. It's your magic ball, man. You're seeing the future, and I'm right there with you. I love it.
Yep. Okay, thanks for that. So this is really an interesting slide for us. It shows you historically the growth of these big brands that we've all come to know in our industry. Well, let's just start with Heartland across the top. In 2011, they had 300 locations. By 14, just 3 years later, they had grown by 83% to
Incredible.
550 practices. We were actually on the phone with the business development guys in 2017. It was back in October when they purchased their 800th practice.
Wow.
So that's another 45% growth rate.
Incredible.
So from 2011 to 2017, just about a 6-year time period, they have more than doubled. They've grown by 167%.
Yep.
Aspen Dental has grown over that same time period 150%, Pacific at 150. Now, not all the businesses have grown that large or that rapidly because of some strategic differences, but what we like to highlight here is this is what we have come to expect, right? So this is, as you see these businesses doubling every 3 to 5 years, you have to begin to think like a finance guy and like a private equity guy. Because these businesses, all but one, Pacific Dental, which is still privately held, are owned by private equity. On the far right-hand side, you can see which private equity groups own these businesses.
Hmm.
We were having this conversation last night over dinner. When private equity gets involved and you go through that marketed sales process and you finally sell to them and monetize some of your position, it's actually not the finish line. It's the beginning of a new race.
Yeah.
And when that race begins, their plan is to double the size of that EBITDA in a 3 to 5 year time period and take it back to market. And they do that primarily through two functions. One is increasing same store sales, and two is acquisition either through de novo or through an acquisition strategy. And we'll go through some of the mathematics behind that in a moment.
Yeah. Cool.
But this is what we're coming to expect, Cory. I mean, we're going to see.
That's crazy that this is becoming the norm. I mean, it really is crazy.
Completely.
You just don't see this in other industries, and that's why this is such an electrifying topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see this in consolidating industries. We're seeing it. We're also seeing it in the vet space, right? We're seeing it in cottage industries like chiropractic or optometrics. I think we're going to see more and more of this. Once private equity has pointed their laser at an industry, it happens really, really quickly. We've been to a lot of private equity conferences this year and spoken to them, and they just said, it's interesting is that the hold times go from 5 to 6 years down to 3 to 4 years. And that will continue to get shorter and shorter and shorter as our industry continues to consolidate and evolve. And really, this is a revolution, not an evolution in this space.
It is. And so let's talk about the primary driver, right? That this word, EBITDA, that is thrown out there. A single practitioner, maybe he catches that word talking to a CPA once a year, but help them understand what EBITDA is and how that's such a driving factor in evaluating a practice and then leveraging for scale.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we can get behind the acronym here, but I think the easiest way to think about EBITDA is it is a proxy for your operating capital, for your operating cash flow. So what does the business produce in cash flow, irrespective of the personal expenses you might be running through or the one-time expenses you might be running through, or the accounting tools like depreciation, which simply decrease our taxable income. It stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. This is the metric on which all businesses in the U.S. economy truly are judged. Now, Silicon Valley, that area is they're judged on clicks and users, right? But true operating businesses like the ones we're talking about in dentistry are really judged on EBITDA. And this is the multiple that you hear people talk about the valuation on.
Yeah, and so real quickly, because again, I've been on both sides of these fence where running a single practice, and you're running so many of your personal expenses through the business that it's chewing up your EBITDA. And if you have anything left over at the end of the day, you're kind of surprised. Or often you're running the business in a deficit because then your taxes look great.
Yeah.
But the problem is that that's not a scalable business. That's not a scalable practice. And again, what Blue IQ is committed to is bringing you tools of scale and understanding of scale. It's really cleaning the business to the point where you're removing a lot of those things. So at the end of the day, after you've paid yourself, there's profit. We call that net profits, net
Yeah.
profits. And now you're ready to leverage those earnings.
Well, and let's just apply this to a one location practice for a quick minute, where I own the business. I'm doing $1 million of collections. My overhead rate is, let's say, 50%. I'm a very efficient practice. On $1 million practice with a 50% overhead rate, I'm taking home $500,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
But what we
Let's
would
real
need to
quickly,
do is,
I'm going to bring up
yeah.
this because this kind of breaks what down a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
what you're
this is a
saying.
perfect example,
Yeah.
right? So the $1 million practice here, this is a general practice with collections split between clinical and hygiene at a percentage of 70 to 30, right? So we see $700,000 of clinical dentistry and $300,000 of hygiene for a total of $1 million of collections.
Right.
In this example, we're looking at a 60% overhead rate or a $600,000 expense, then operating income of $400,000. Now, the operating income in a solo space, the doctor would just take that $400,000, right? And there
Right.
would be
Yeah.
no adjustments, or maybe there'd be some personal expenses run through there. But when we begin to think about adjusting the overhead rate, what we need to think about is, doctor, I know you're the owner of this business, but what would it cost to replace you if you did not do the
Exactly.
work? So what's the
Exactly.
market rate for associates in your business? If you're an endodontist, it could be higher. If you're in a rural area, it could be lower. If you're in a metropolitan area, it could be higher. And these percentages have wide ranges of them.
Yeah.
Texas is different than Charlotte, North Carolina. So we're going to use 30% in this example. So we're going to pay a clinician 30% of the clinical collections. So we apply the 30% to the 700,000, not the full million, to pay the doctor $210,000, leaving entrepreneurial profit, or you can call that EBITDA, of
Yeah.
190,000. Now, let's say the valuation is $800,000. Brokers would say, look, that's 80% of your top line revenue. Cory, this drives us insane when brokers use a percentage of
They do
revenue
it
as
all
a
the time.
proxy for value.
Yeah.
You would never buy any income producing asset based off revenue. We
Yeah.
always buy it based off cash flow.
Right.
And one of our this is one of our biggest pet peeves, and we want to get everybody from the group space is already there, but especially down to the solo space. Think about profitability. So we would if at the same $800,000 value, we would use the 4.2 multiple
Hmm.
is what we're looking at. So 4.2 times 190,000 gives you the $800,000 valuation.
Which is what then drives this. That's why private equity is now so interested in this space, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll continue the example, but what's really interesting is as you continue to build these and get larger and gain scale. So in this example, I need to move this over a little bit so I can see what we're looking at. Yeah, okay, great. So this is someone going out and buying 7 locations at various levels of income between, let's say the revenues, I think it's in the example we showed was between 900 and 1.2 million for total collections of about 6.9 million. We show that same clinical split, same overhead of 60%, and we still have to pay our clinicians 30% of the clinical piece. Well, I've gone from 1 to 7 locations, which is I've now built an entrepreneurial profit of about $1.3 million. Now we're really starting to attract some interesting investors,
You
right?
got some attention, right?
Now, and look, I don't want to gloss over the fact that this is not easy to get to this
No,
point.
no.
It's not easy to get the leverage to get to this point. You think about the number of hygienists, dental assistants, associate doctors.
Yeah,
I mean, you have a big business at this point.
yeah. Yeah, this
So the
this
cost to
is
acquire these were, around 5.5, which puts EBITDA in the business of about 1.1, 1.3.
yeah, nice.
What were you going to say, Corey?
No, I was just going to say to those of our listeners who are listening to this, I mean, that really is skipping over a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we recognize that, and we could do an entire segment of how to go from 1 to 7. So
Yeah.
we'll continue on with this concept, but I think that's again what Kevin's team has become so great at, is helping you through the process of becoming 1 to 7 and what it takes and how to leverage that and how to sleep at night in the process, because that's important.
Yeah, I mean, look, our core competency in this space is helping you start, grow, or sell your DSO.
Yeah.
And I will say there could be different leadership at each one of those phases. We
Hmm.
see that they're great CEOs and leaders that are great at the initial phases. There's some that are really good at growing, and there are others that are great at planning for the exit. It's the rare individual that can take a business through each of those phases of development inside of the business effectively and truly maximize the shareholder value. We see them, but it's a rare case.
I bet.
So this is interesting. When you look at the 7 locations, we call those a collection of dots on a map, right? We haven't connected them with any legal connective tissue, cultural connective tissue, operational connective tissue. We just went out and bought 7 practices.
Hmm.
But what great operators do are increase collections and decrease overhead,
Yeah.
right? So the ones who are great at doing this can really increase the EBITDA. So this is going back to, all right, we're going to take insurance out of 7 practices and we're going to centralize this up to 1 location. And you
Exactly.
can rationalize 6 employees that way. We're going to layer in a call center, take the phones out of the office, and we're going to get better at reactivation. So we don't miss a phone call. We've scripted all the patient calls, and our success rate for going from a phone call to an appointment and from an appointment to a patient goes up higher and higher because we've become experts in that piece of
Yeah.
the business. So this is the way you really create value inside of your DSO.
Yep. I love it. And that's what Blue IQ is committed to, is those supporting that and providing the data to make those intelligent decisions in seconds. Um,
Yeah,
that's
all
that's a
too
beautiful
often,
thing.
Corey, we see people that have, 10 locations, but 4 different practice management software systems. And
Yeah.
when you have that, you cannot pull actionable data out of those systems without having people send you multiple reports, dropping them in a Google spreadsheet, and then running a lot of analytics. And what I love about you guys and what you're doing is you're connected to the top softwares out there, and you can integrate all of that information seamlessly to provide me, the practice owner and business owner, a clear look at the full enterprise and then down to the practice level.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So
Yep.
going through this ROI example, how do we get to that 229%?
Yeah. So this again is thinking about that EBITDA we just had on the previous slide of about 1.5, right? So we went out and bought 7 locations. We've proven to be an excellent operator. We've increased the revenues. We've decreased the expenses, and we've also added a couple of managerial expenses. So maybe we've hired a CEO, or we've added actually this is so we've
You ready
added a
for that one?
CEO, or we've added a couple of expenses. But at the end of the day, we're at 1.5 million. And Corey, you can go back to that previous slide. Uh,
This one?
so so who's going to buy this, right? So, no, you're good right there.
Okay.
So who's going to buy this, right? So we have a scalable platform, and the market dictates that businesses of this size are trading, somewhere between maybe 6 and 8 times. Again, this is the EBITDA multiple.
Yeah.
So let's just look at the middle column there, the 6x multiple. So 6 times the 1.5 brings you an enterprise value of 9.4. You'll remember the cost that we took on to buy these businesses was about 5.5. So there's a
Yep.
net increase of close to $4 million, or an ROI of 172%.
Gotcha.
How do you get from 6 to 8? You go through a marketed process with someone like Tusk, for one. 2, you build a scalable business that's simply missing cash to continue to grow. But this is really where what private equity is looking for. Strategics like Heartland Dental Care or other large aggregators, it's nice for you to have a platform, but candidly, they have their own they're going to plug you into. So if
Hmm.
you're looking for that higher multiple, it's best to probably position your business to a private equity group that's looking to get a toehold in the industry. And then on the next slide, we'll see how they make their money on the back end.
Yeah, yeah, let's go into that because it's important to understand the ends to the means and what some of these, PE groups are looking for.
Yeah, so the PE groups are capitalists. Let's just be real clear about that.
Money.
They could have a family member that's in dentistry. They all likely went to the dentist in the past, but they're not in this for the love of dentistry. They're in
No.
this for the love of cash. So I don't want to mince words on that piece. There are great operators out there. There are great private equity groups, and we're familiar with a lot of them who've shown a lot of success inside the industry. But effectively, they're renting these businesses for a short period of time, pouring in operational expertise and growing the pie, and then selling this again to a larger group. So let's
Right.
look to see how this works. They bought the platform that you just built, Corey. They bought that for 6x. So they bought 1.5 million of EBITDA for 6 times. Cost them 9.4 to buy that.
Yep.
Well, now they're going to tack on additional acquisitions. They're going to buy up to $1.5 million, double the EBITDA, but they're not going to buy a platform this time. They're going to buy individual locations. So they're going to buy another 7 locations individually, picking up onesies and twosies for an average cost of about 4.2 times EBITDA.
Hmm.
Now, their cost to acquire the platform was 9.4. The cost to acquire the individual locations was about 6.6. So the total platform, through the acquisitions, puts 3.1 on the bottom line, and it cost me 16 approximately. Now, these guys are great operators too. And how do we grow EBITDA? We do it 2 ways. We grow top line or we cut expenses. So we're just going to show the EBITDA growing at 5%.
Right.
Um,
Oh, is it that slide you want next?
nope, you were good. Let me just
Okay.
finish this slide here.
Yep.
Great. So we're going EBITDA of 3.1, growing that 5% per year from year 1, 2, 3, and 4, where at the end of year 5, we have over $4 million of EBITDA.
Nice.
Cost to acquire was 16. The EBITDA at year 5 is $4 million. So this is the dollar cost averaging down, right?
Wow.
So we bought a platform at 6, we bought another one at 4.2, we grew the business, and we dollar cost averaged down to about a 4x multiple.
Yeah.
Now I've got something to sell. Let's
Yeah.
see how we monetize this asset.
Okay.
I've got a business of $4 million of EBITDA. The likelihood of this trading at between 10 and 12 in today's market is very, very high. So if I sell my business that's doing $4 million at 10x, that's about a $40 million enterprise value. The cost that I took on to acquire and build this business was $16 million. And the difference, the net proceeds to me, the investor, is $24 million.
Yeah, you're dancing your way to the bank.
Right. I mean, this is the wealth creation, the generational wealth creation we are seeing inside of the industry.
Right.
We do not want to underscore that this is for everybody. There's absolutely room for entrepreneurs and people that want to be involved in this space, but it takes great tools like Blue IQ. It takes great guidance and leadership inside of your business, and we'd recommend that you work with someone like Tuss to make sure that you don't make any missteps early on. It is wrought with peril, right? So if you have the wrong legal documents, or if you have the wrong operating structure, or
Yeah.
employment agreements, or incentive plans, they can all blow up in your face.
Yeah. I mean, this is taking somebody who, especially when you're talking to the doctorpreneur who has gone to school, not a ton of business background, and you're basically bringing on a partner with Tusk who has legal, who has business, who has financial, and you're getting all of that industry knowledge and wealth for pennies on the dollar. I mean, I trying to scale this on your own, you need partners, you need help, because the ROI on it is astounding.
Yeah, there's huge opportunity. This is what is driving the consolidation in the market, and we believe that this is a positive thing. At the end of the day, it's increasing access to care, it's lowering the cost to the patient, and it's providing a much more efficient dental experience for everyone.
Yeah. These next few slides, did we cover these or
Yeah, we've pretty much covered this landscape.
yeah, yeah, I kind of figured as much as we go into this. And, you know, that's kind of there's a lot of scared single location owners right there. They're
Yeah,
seeing the competition. They're seeing their marketing not be as effective. They're losing revenues and they're scared.
yeah,
Um, and again, we're partnering with some of these groups to provide the education because there's got to be some decisions made, and these are hard decisions. You either play it out the last decade of your practice life, or you start making some hard decisions and say, you know what, for 10 years, I'm going to re-engage. I'm going to work hard in my practice. I'm going to turn it into something that can be leveraged for some significant growth. And that's why we have some of these emerging tools that we're seeing emerge into the marketplace and consultants and growth and why there's so much opportunity to be had. And so you're going to have questions. I know you're going to have questions after. There's no way we could cover this topic in the depth that we would love to cover it without having a full day deep dive with Kevin and his team. And so what we're providing for our listeners is a free 30-minute call with Kevin or one of his partners and just an opportunity to connect with them. You'll see the link right here on Facebook Live down on the bottom. Just click on that link and that will take you to a page where you can go ahead and schedule that free 30-minute call. Got nothing to lose. I mean, this is an opportunity to speak with one of our industry's experts on these topics. See if this opportunity is right for you. If you are thinking about going into the DSO space or you're already in it and realizing that there's some informational gaps that you need to pull together, I'm telling you guys, I give my full support to Tusk and Kevin and his team. They are outstanding. They are busy. So get on their calendar as soon as you can because they're traveling, they're speaking, they're engaging. But the sooner the better. You
yeah.
won't regret it.
Listen, we've loved this experience. We love to teach. We like to reflect the realities we see in the market. And we love working with the founder operators. I would encourage everyone to visit tusk-partners.com, sign up for our blog. We are writing about our experiences. We're posting on a nearly weekly basis about what we're seeing, tax strategies, legal strategies, the view from private equity. We are speaking at most of these DSO conferences, and the ones we're not speaking at, we're attending and providing you a high-level view about what we're learning. So we would invite everybody to set up a call, and we'd love to get to know you. And listen, after a conversation with us, if you decide that the DSO world is not for you, that is a perfectly acceptable outcome.
Yeah.
Our job is to inform the market of what we see happening.
Perfect. Beautiful, Kevin. Thank you so much for spending and donating your time with us today. Great information. To our audience, remember, watch In the Blue on Fridays, 9 Pacific, 12 Eastern. Kevin, again, so grateful to be with you. Keep crushing it out there. Good luck traveling, and I know you're on the road. And be safe out there. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Cory. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.